All right, my bad. The video before, I was totally in the mood to just kind of like start reading and like following the script, but I ended up kind of like derailing. Anyways, today's video is beware that wanting change is not just beware that wanting change is not just wanting attention. Beware. All right, so my first reflection is when you have an idea that you want to do and you go tell people, you actually feel some form of satisfaction. And I think that's the attention part of the satisfaction. And it kind of like shows that that's the motive for why you said you wanted to do what you wanted to do, or why you wanted to do what you wanted to do, so you can talk about something personal yourself and all that stuff. And it would reflect a certain kind of way on you. But I said beware. And the reason I say beware is because sometimes we make decisions to change that are not really for our benefit. They're not really motivated from a bad place, they're just not motivated from the best one. And so you changed something that probably should have stayed the same instead of actually understanding the, the thing that should have probably started changing. Just having a conversation earlier, and hear me out. I did a video before about the principles of Bushido. And the idea behind it is basically like there are seven principles that the Bushido code. And it's not Bushido is not samurai, it's a philosophy, right? It's just the philosophy that actual like samurai had, or the Japanese culture back then had. And the idea behind it is basically there's gi, integrity, and there's rei, respect, and there's yu, heroic courage, and then there's meio, which is honor, and then jin, compassion, makoto, which is like honesty and sincerity, and chu, which is duty and loyalty. Now here's the thing. These seven principles are the base of whatever you establish on yourself. But then, like, where do you input these principles? You kind of have to reflect on your own, like, what is my expression in this world, or what am I creative? But there's also a base for that. And when the conversation I was having with my friend, my base is this. Like, every day I have to walk. And the walk is basically an hour that I give to myself, but not for myself. As in, like, and I literally say, call it the walk of the walk of the universe, the universal walk. And no music is allowed, just like me walking. I'm not supposed to talk to anyone. I have my cousin dropped her dog today with me. So, like, the idea is basically just take yourself for a walk, spend time with yourself. I get to, like, see a lot of things that are happening in my mind simply because I'm walking. So, like, my direct focus is just like on where I'm going. And then my mind's kind of like circulating random things around it. And then I'm noticing them, and it allows me to kind of like see what kind of like progresses throughout the day in my head without my conscious like understanding. And that's one. Two is basically, I want to say just like, well, there's work, but there's also creative work that you do for yourself. Like for me, for example, it's guitar. There's meditation and self-reflection are two different things, because when you're meditating, you're kind of like entering the realm of your I want to say soul, but a lot of you would feel corny about it. But you're kind of like you're entering the realm of your mind. You're entering your own reality, and what you're doing is you're kind of like allowing the things that are happening there to kind of like reveal themselves differently to you, or at the very least to like spend some time with you and stuff like this. So like walking spends time with the output that's coming out of your head, whilst meditating spends time with how the input's coming out. Beautiful, because like as you walk, when you meditate, you're kind of reflecting on the things that you realized in the walk, and then that the core base of them. And so also there's a creative activity that I said, and for me it's the guitar. And there's also like exercise for my body and something educational research study for my actual brain. And so like I feel for growth, these 6, 7 things actually have to be engaged with every single day. Now it's funny because I'm reading about change right now. Like beware that wanting change is just wanting attention. And the way I'm looking at the day is basically you have these 6 things that you kind of have to do, and you're going to reach certain plateaus with each one of them. Like with the guitar, I know I reached a plateau, and like basically I went to the basics and I started sitting differently, trying to strum differently, and I realized everything I used to be able to do before kind of like doesn't work on the new pattern. But the reason I'm doing this is because I want my voice to come out like this instead of like all squeaky. So I have to change some things, and a lot of things are adapting. So that's a change, right? But that's a change that needed to be made. But like I could have been frustrated with something, for example, when it comes to work, and forced some change in something else. For example, force some change in working out, force some change in going to places and sitting, meeting with people, even a full lifestyle change, right? Instead of like working at home, I work at coffee shops, I work somewhere else. Sometimes that change removes a certain consistency that could work differently. And ultimately, like that change makes you make that realization if you're aware or at least like reflective in a certain way. So, so the idea behind it is like, you kind of always have to realize what change needs to be made. Because like if you're like, uh, this is growing, this is growing, this is kind of like feeling a bit stale, change needs to be probably there, right? And it could be change as in like let it go for a week. That's change instead of actively approaching it. And I split them in concepts where I actually like reflect on myself and how they affect me. So I do the things that affect me in a way that get me closer to a version of myself that is basically able to go out, meet people, talk to them about their businesses, and reflecting that on my actual platform and being able to come back with like data and information. And that kind of person exists. It's just kind of like it's not the person I am today, or else that's what I'll be doing. And so all these small changes are building these things that eventually kind of like that are collaborating daily, but like eventually create that like ideal version that's doing the things that I like. It's doing this that's actually implementing my vision of me going to people, talking to people, and kind of like spending time in the morning like working with people, spending time at night kind of like working on a different feature for them, setting things up. There's a lot of like stages in design. It's not just writing code, it's sitting on a piece of paper, like explaining to yourself properly what you want to do, and then kind of like connecting it to things that you thought about before. And then from there, you explain yourself the stages and how you want to do it. There's like, and then I read papers about them, but I never used to like understand why do you have to do that until I started like doing them. And then I realized if I had done this, this would have been easier. And then basically sporadically and randomly, just kind of like connected the stages from A to Z. And as of the past 2 weeks, I've been noticing this realization. It's like, okay, I want to do this, I have to do this, I have to do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I think that's what experience is. But the idea behind it is like these things that contribute to me in the day are the ones that basically have to grow, and that's where the changes are. But sometimes their frustrations are the ones that take over because, like for example, I know for a fact I kind of like I'm frustrated because like I'm not really like being consistent with music the way I would want. And I also know that I am being like something about work. I don't know, right? Like there's this like anytime you realize something, it's because you kind of went through some stuff where you were like, why am I not something else? Why am I not this? Why am I not that? Or why is this not this? Or why is this not that? And there's this like destructuring process where you take something and you remove the bits and parts of it, and then you see how it's built wrong. And that's where the realization comes in. And so these frustrations, I don't know if they became easy for me, but I still have every once in a while like it's an urge to change. Like right now, I feel like I want to change my house. And awkwardly, it feels like I depleted how I could work within this area. And I feel like, or at the very least, I want to look at what's going on as I would feel differently, or I can actually detach myself from something I'm used to, and it will show me something new. That's like a change, right? But then how is this change going to affect all the other things that I'm working on? And again, like for me to decide on that change, I came through a lot of conclusions first. But specifically for me, I kind of like am very it brought up the whole like change aspect. And back to the note, beware that wanting change is not just wanting attention. Going to a new place means meeting new people, means all that stuff, which probably means that I'm going to kind of like vibe off of that. And I know I do. And so that this note's kind of telling me beware, and I attached it to that. But then I can attach it to many things that I like wanting to change from the house that I live in, or I don't know, wanting to change how I do work. There's a lot of changes that are there, and it's make and again, like I just read it, but it's I need to take into consideration, and I think that's the best way to end this video, because I got you through the whole stages of confusion. Beware that wanting change is not just wanting attention. I think I need to find a better way in order to reflect on the things that I'm looking at changing, or the things that are changing, on if they're changing because they're for me, or if they're changing because they're from me. Because if they're from me, that means it's an opinion that I made once, and it could be the right one, but I need to actually double check it. But if it's for me, that means I never had an opinion. I just saw myself changing. And I need to be careful that what I'm doing is not just kind of like dramatically seeking attention in a different way anytime I want to change something. I think that's basically the video. Woohoo!